Welcome 7th through 8th grade. We are going to start off right where we left off. In fact, we're going to do a little bit of review. So we're going to talk, I'm going to clarify a few things about a works cited page and just do a little review for you and hopefully get you really solidified on this. I'm also very aware that if you're doing research and you're doing your bibliography correctly, then your research is still ongoing and your works cited page is a work in progress. So your homework was to cite your MLA sources and to create your own works cited page. But this is something that if you were doing true research, and as you're doing it for this paper, for my class, your finished project is your big research paper at the end of the semester, and your finalized works cited page will be the last page of that essay. So I would expect you to turn in a working works cited page. That means in progress. So I can see that you're making progress, but that is also how I became aware that I should probably clarify. So as a quick review, a works cited page is a list of sources. That means a list of the books that you look at. You might not even read the whole book, but you might read a chapter or a paragraph. Or the list might also include news articles from a place like Google Scholar or some of these journals. That means they have been published in paper form. They could include electronic resources. That would be websites or articles published online. Some of the printed articles are also published online, and if that's how you access them, then you would cite it that way. It could even be that you incorporate in your works cited page an interview with a person, maybe an eyewitness or a professional in the area that you're doing research in. It could be a documentary that you watch, a recording that you listen to. Any resource should be on this list. But then the question is, how do I put it on this list? How do I list it? Do I write movie, and the title? Well, I'm glad you asked, because as a reminder, there are specific directions. We are going to follow a guide, a style guide. Now, style does not mean like we mean it often to mean like a personal flair or your own choice of how you want to do something. In fact, it means the opposite. Everyone has to follow the same rules. And in your class, when your teacher tells you what style guide to use, you have to follow those rules in order to get a good grade. So it's not optional to just decide how you want to list them or decide what part of it you want to follow and what part is too tedious. You could do that, but that would result in a poor grade, maybe even a failed grade. So this is important. Style here just is referring to how you would write, how to write. And if you think of it that way, it will be clear. So the one that we are using this semester is MLA, which stands for Modern Language Association. And there's a website that you can access all this information on, which is what we're going to go visit real quick. So they give a great, they give you very specific instructions for how to do works cited. This is a beautiful one. If you notice in the top right-hand corner, there is the student's last name and the page number. In this case, the works cited, it's always the last page of your paper. So this paper totals 8 pages. And then you type works cited in the center of your paper. Control E is how you would enter it. And then you notice that there is a hanging indent. That means that the first entry is completely flush with the left margin, which is 1 inch from the edge. And the rest of the entry for this resource is a hanging indent. The next entry begins at the next line that is flush with the left margin. Notice that these are in order alphabetically. Bradfield, Bustos, Cooper. This is not just in order of how the student happened upon them. And every little jot and tittle must be done perfectly. There is an order, there are rules to be followed, directions, a specific pattern. So I'm going to show you a couple students' work that I received this week. And we're going to give them feedback together, okay? So the first one I'm going to pull up here in just a second. Okay, here's the first one. Now notice this student gave themselves, they included the resources here, but they created their own prompts, and then they just included a link. They have an official order, information, geographical facts, U.S. Department of Interior. Now this is great for this student's notes, but this does not count as a works cited page. Now, and because you have to remember, you're printing this, and so I can't just click on a link from the paper. But let's go ahead and look at one of her articles. Let's look at the last article. Which presidents have created the most national monuments? I'm going to click on it, if it will let me. Okay, so here is the article. And if you look to the right, it is written by Angela Gonzalez and Linda Coutant, or however you say that. So we're going to follow MLA formatting. We do the last name first, Angela, and if there's more than one, we do it like that with a period. So Gonzalez is the last name. Now let's look at this for a pattern. If there is more than two, we would put et al, period. But let's see if we can find an example of one that has two. There we go. Rachel Fresh Holt and Mario A. Stravinsky. So the first one is reversed. The second one is not. Because it is an article, we're going to use quotation marks. Which presidents have created the most national monuments? Question mark, close quotation marks. Now the second line has to be tabbed in. Now let's see if it's going to let me do this. If you have Word, you should go ahead. This is not Word. And have it formatted. Just Google it because there's a special way to do it. But I'm going to keep going. But normally you would tab it in there. And then we're going to look at the container. So it's an article for a blog post, which is the NPCA, the National Parks Conservation Association. So that is going to be underlined because that is the container. That's like the main, it's almost like a book. We treat it almost like a book title. So we're going to command underline National Parks Conservation Association, and we're going to also put a period under that. Then let's see what the next thing we want to do. Go back to our works cited example. And then we want to include the date, volume and number and date if we have it, and then page number. So let's go back to our article. It does not have a volume or a number. So we're only going to post the date, which would be December 1st, 2022. And let's make sure we make it match the format. So we do 1, capital D. Oh, we got to get rid of our underline. So we do 1, capital DEC period, 2021, I believe is the date, 2022. 2022, comma. Now, we don't have any page numbers because it's a website. Let's just make sure we're getting all our details right. Yep. So we go back here. And the next thing we include, actually, instead of underlining it, let's italicize it. That's what we should be doing. Underline is what we did when I was younger. She didn't always have italics. So we're going to ununderline it, and now we're going to italics it. Okay. And then the next thing we're going to do is include the actual web address. And we actually have it right here. So we're going to copy this. Actually, let's do it from here just so you can see me do it. So the actual web address is up here. I'm going to click on it. It says copy. I'm going to come over here. I'm going to Command V or Control V and paste it. And now when you see the blue come in the underline, you need a backspace until it goes away. Let's see if I can do that again. There we go. And then I would end with a period. And that, if it's properly indented, that is my entry. Yeah, it's not going to let me do it in this program. So use Word, and it will let you do it correctly. Okay. All right, so that is a finished bibliography entry. It is a little tedious. It seems like a little much, but that's how you do it. I'm going to do one more example, one more feedback for another student. Okay, this is what another student turned in this week. So a couple thoughts on this one right out of the gate. First of all, it is not alphabetized. Edelman should come before Kelly. Secondly, when you have two authors, the second one is not backwards. It would just say Rita Simon. Let's go back to Martin Kelly's book, or actually I think it's probably an article here. If it's an article, it will be in quotation marks. How many U.S. presidents have been assassinated? I believe that U.S. does not have periods after it. If it does, then there's a mistake in the article title because U.S. as an adjective does not have periods. So I think maybe the student might have added that in unintentionally. So we would unitalicize this and we would put it in quotation marks, but we would italicize the website. Now, one of the glaring missing things is we don't need NP for no page because this is just a article posted online, but we are missing the website. Also, the second line of any bibliography always needs to be indented, so that's called a hanging indent. Let's go to the Edelman Murray. Presidential assassinations, their meaning and impact on American society. That looks like a book. If it is book, then it should be italicized, but then we should have the publishing information. Was it Chicago Press? Was it another university? Or if it was published online, then we would need a web page. So both of these, this though was at least the student did put it in, attempt to put it in bibliography form. But I'm doing this video in order to show you that this is tedious, this is difficult, and this is, it takes time. I also tell my students that I never have yet memorized how to do every kind of bibliography or works cited entry, but I do know how to look it up in a book. So I keep my book nearby and I often look it up. I wrote papers all through high school, college, and grad school. And I've taught this many times, and I still have to look it up. So you're not expected to know these things, but you do need to be a professional looker-upper, and you need to follow directions. That will be the key to having a good, clean, works cited page. So continue on, use this week. Your homework is, again, continuing your research, continuing your works cited page. Parents, for grading, I would encourage you to just take a grade for progress. So if they had 5 entries last week, aim for a total of 7 and a cleaner works cited page than they turned in last week. So maybe they were missing their hanging indents, or it was not alphabetized, or they left out some information. After you give them feedback on these things, they should turn in a cleaner version. Students, what I'm doing through this semester is showing you how to write your own paper, because when you get to college, they're going to give you an assignment, a paper assignment. They're going to give you a date it's due, but it's very unlikely that they're going to give you these stepping stones along the way to help you, to give you the guidance that we're getting in this class by working together through this project. So these are things that in college you'll be expected to do on your own. So the struggle, if it happens now, will prevent you from getting to college and being lost, which it's quite often that students don't know how to do this. So this will save you when you get to college. I know it's not the fun part of writing, but be encouraged. Like I said, it isn't about brains. It's not about being really smart here. It's just about following directions. So if you can do that, you will succeed. I'll see you next week.